Blackwood Forest had a name. People spoke it softly, with a kind of fear. The forest stood old, very old. Its trees were dark, their branches twisted like unhappy thoughts. No sunlight seemed to properly reach the ground. Children were told never to play near its edge. Adults knew better than to test its reputation. The forest waited. It always waited. It had seen generations come and go. The stories about Blackwood were not pleasant. They were whispered in hushed tones on cold nights by dying fires. Stories of people who went in and never came out. Sometimes a possession might be found. A dropped scarf, a single muddy boot. But never the person. Strange sounds came from the forest too. Not birds. Not animals known to the area. A sighing, some said. A rustling when there was no wind. The peculiar evil of Blackwood was its quietness. It did not roar. It did not threaten loudly. It simply was. It had a way of unsettling the mind, making you doubt what you saw and heard. No one with any sense went near Blackwood Forest after the sun began to set. Into this atmosphere of dread came a man named Elias Thorne. No one in the nearby village of Oakhaven had heard of him. He carried little, just a worn leather satchel. His clothes were dark and plain. He did not smile much. His eyes were pale, washed out gray, seeming to look through you. Elias Thorne said he was a botanist, here to study rare plants. The villagers did not believe him. Oakhaven was small, strangers were rare. They looked at his clean hands, not the hands of a man who dug in the earth. They looked at his too intense gaze, not the gaze of a simple scholar of flowers. There was a quiet intensity about Elias. He spoke little, but his voice was low, compelling. He asked few questions, but the ones he asked were pointed. About the forest, its history, any strange occurrences. He seemed to know more than he let on, as if the forest had called to him specifically. He asked for directions to Blackwood Forest. The innkeeper tried to warn him. The old man at the general store told him stories. Elias listened patiently, nodded, but his pale eyes showed no fear, only a quiet determination. He thanked them for their concern, paid for his meager supplies and set off towards the whispering woods, alone. He was the last guest the forest would receive for a long time. Elias Thorne reached the edge of Blackwood Forest. The transition was immediate. One moment, he was in the fading sunlight of the fields. The next, he was swallowed by shadow. The temperature dropped sharply, as if a cold, damp blanket had been thrown over the world. The cheerful sounds of the countryside vanished, replaced by a profound, unnatural silence. The trees of Blackwood were ancient, their bark dark, almost black, deeply grooved. Branches twisted and clawed at the sky, forming a dense canopy overhead. Little light penetrated this woody ceiling. What did filter through was a sickly green. It cast strange dancing shadows on the forest floor, shadows that seemed to writhe. Underfoot the ground was soft, composed of centuries of fallen leaves and decaying matter. It muffled his footsteps, making his progress eerily quiet. Strange fungi grew in clusters on fallen logs, some glowing with a faint phosphorescent light. Their colors were unnatural, livid purples and sickly yellows. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth and something else, something faintly metallic, like old blood. Every step Elias took felt significant, as if he were trespassing on sacred, forbidden ground. The silence was broken only by the drip of moisture from unseen leaves or the sudden snap of a twig underfoot. He felt eyes on him. He could not see them, but the sensation was undeniable. The forest was aware of his presence. It watched. It waited. The paranormal secrets were stirring. Elias knew he was not alone. After walking for what felt like hours, Elias came upon a small clearing. In the center, something lay on the mossy ground. It was a doll, an old-fashioned porcelain doll. Its dress was faded, its eyes missing, leaving dark, empty sockets. A peculiar chill ran down Elias's spine. He hesitated, then picked up the doll. As his fingers closed around it, he thought he heard a whisper. Elias quickly dropped the doll. It landed with a soft thud on the moss. He backed away, feeling a strong urge to leave the clearing, to put as much distance as possible between himself and the eyeless toy. Night fell swiftly in Blackwood. The light vanished abruptly. Elias made a small, hesitant fire. The wood was damp, the flames weak. Darkness pressed in, menacing. He heard footsteps, soft and deliberate. They circled just outside the firelight. He saw nothing, but felt a presence. Then, a child's soft, chilling laugh. Elias gripped his hatchet. The forest was playing with him. Sleep was impossible. Elias Thorne sat with his back against a thick tree trunk. The fire had burned low, and it offered little comfort now. He knew he was being watched. The feeling was a constant pressure on his skin, a prickling at the back of his neck. He scanned the darkness ceaselessly, but the watcher remained unseen, hidden within the deeper shadows of Blackwood. Subtle things began to happen, things that frayed his nerves. He had placed his small hunting knife on a log beside him. When he reached for it, it was gone. He found it a few moments later, lying several feet away, half hidden under some leaves. His canteen, which he was sure he had sealed tightly, was found overturned, the precious water seeping into the thirsty ground. Small acts of malice designed to unnerve. The shadows cast by the dying embers danced and writhed, taking on disturbing shapes. For a fleeting moment, a shadow might resemble a grasping hand or a grotesque, leering face. He blinked and it would be gone, replaced by an ordinary shadow of a branch. Suddenly, the oppressive silence of Blackwood was shattered. A scream, loud and piercing, ripped through the night air. It was a sound of pure terror, of unbearable agony. It was not Elias's scream. It came from somewhere deeper in the forest, yet it sounded horribly close. It echoed among the ancient trees, then was cut off abruptly as if a hand had been clamped over the screamer's mouth, or worse. After the scream, a silence descended, more profound and more terrifying than anything before. It was as if the entire forest held its breath, waiting, listening. Even the small night sounds had ceased. No insects chirped, no leaves rustled, just a dead, heavy stillness. Elias's own breath sounded harsh in his ears. His heart hammered against his ribs like a trapped bird. What had made that sound, and what had silenced it? He clutched his small hatchet tighter. Its wooden handle was slick with his sweat. He was no longer just an observer or a scholar searching for rare plants. He was prey. He knew it with a certainty that chilled him to the core. The forest was not a passive entity, it was an active hunter, and something, or someone, had just fallen victim to it. He wondered if he would be next. The thought was a cold knot in his stomach. Elias Thorne rose slowly. His legs felt unsteady. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to flee this accursed place, but where could he run? The darkness was absolute in every direction, and the tapping continued from his tent. He crept towards it, each step a monumental effort. The hatchet felt heavy in his trembling hand. He reached the tent flap. He paused, listening. Tap, tap, tap. He took a deep breath and threw the flap open. Inside, illuminated by the faint, dying glow of the distant fire, sat the doll. The porcelain doll from the clearing. It was propped upright as if someone had carefully placed it there. Its eyeless sockets seemed to fix on him. Its chipped, painted smile looked wider in the dim light, more menacing. As he stared, frozen in horror, the doll's head began to turn, slowly, creakily, until it was looking directly at him. The temperature inside the small tent plummeted. Frost began to form on the canvas walls. His breath plumed in front of him. The doll did not move further, but it began to speak. Or rather, a voice issued from its direction, a voice that was old, raspy, full of ancient malice. No one ever saw Elias Thorne again. When he did not return to Oakhaven after several days, a search party was reluctantly formed. The villagers were afraid, but a sense of duty and perhaps a grim curiosity drove them. They searched the edges of Blackwood Forest. They called his name. Their voices were swallowed by the silence. They found nothing. No sign of his camp, no discarded equipment, no footprints. It was as if Elias Thorne had simply vanished from the face of the earth. Only one thing was ever found. Weeks later, a brave, or perhaps foolish young boy ventured a little way into the forest. He found the porcelain doll. It was back in its clearing, sitting upright on the moss. Its faded dress looked cleaner, he thought. Its chipped smile seemed somehow more content. He did not touch it. He ran back to the village, his face pale, his story adding another layer to the dark legend of Blackwood. The forest itself seemed different after Elias Thorne's disappearance. Darker, more watchful. The locals said the whispering sounds were clearer now. Sometimes on a still night, they thought they could hear a new voice among the sighs of the trees. A low, hesitant voice full of unspoken questions. The forest kept its secrets, and it seemed Elias Thorne had become one of them. Another paranormal mystery absorbed into its ancient heart.